Hello and welcome. My name is Desiree Shaw. I'm a psychotherapist and I vlog and I podcast. And welcome to my series, The Shite People Do, which is about the social interactions and the behaviours that we sometimes come across with people that we know where certain things happen, creating a discord or discomfort within us. How to cope, how to manage. So this is the podcast. And after this podcast, there is a workshop. And the workshop, the direction of the workshop is to go deeper. The point of these podcasts is to name and open up to the behaviors of somebody else or what's happening to you and understand and strengthen yourself, empower yourself to not just cope, but thrive through those situations and circumstances. So this is the series on the awkwardness of conflict. And what makes these series, why am I doing this? A lot of noise on social media, and there's a lot of people talking about toxic people, this, that, and the other. This is not a podcast where we will be naming and shaming people. It's about understanding what has happened and then looking inward and supporting yourself to deal with it. So I will be sharing information from my own experiences, which will be valid to give examples. So the awkwardness of conflict. What do you do when conflict happens? You don't shy away from it. You got to walk up to the awkwardness of it, not the conflict, but the awkwardness of it. And this is where you got to get comfortable with that awkwardness. So this episode is called Digs, Shade, and Backhanded Compliments. So let's just define what those three things are. So a dig is a subtle or indirect insult, right? Intended to belittle or provoke. What is shade? It's a more veiled form of criticism, often delivered in a passive aggressive manner. What is a backhanded compliment? A backhanded compliment is a statement that appears to be a compliment, but carries an underlying insult or a negative implication, right? So I'm going to give you a detail of a situation that took shape with me, myself, and how it rolled all of these three aspects into one. It happened in one. So I'm using this specifically because it's a wonderful example of a social situation where somebody did dig, shade, and backhanded compliment. What I went through, how to cope with it, how to soothe yourself using compassion-focused therapy. So I encountered a new friend, and often I'm talking about situations in the health club that I frequent very often. And with a new friend, and they had created something for me, and I went to pick it up. And on going to pick it up, I walked through the door and this person exclaimed. Now, this person is also from that same ethnicity as me, not the same country, but same ethnicity as me. And they exclaimed in a very loud voice, "Oh my God, what lightening cream are you wearing? You look amazing." And I was taken aback because that for me was an insult of any insult that could ever been said to me, because I don't bleach my skin or wear lightening cream of any such type. Plus, I had just arrived back from Dubai a few weeks before and I was tanned because I do tan. So I was shocked, and in my head I was bubbling around with words thinking, this is the most weirdest thing. No one's ever said this to me before in my life. I don't like it. I'm super uncomfortable. I really find this really grotesque. So I said, why would you say that? I've never bleached my skin in my life. I don't even like the idea of it. I have strong views about it. In fact, and I use this word, I find it an abhorrent thing to do. I don't like that. And he said, oh, but in the spa, because we go to the spa, you're darker. And I thought, that's a really dumb thing to say, because the spa is dark and I'm black and so are you. So I would be darker. I couldn't understand why this person had said this. So we'll fast forward a month or two later. We're in a social situation in the same health club, and they're sitting down. I've sat down and they said, oh my God, you look so different. Now, nice, over the top love bombing. I got that a lot. So when I do this expression, this is exactly how it was delivered to me. When somebody overdoes nice, they're not necessarily nice. In fact, when you've got to overdo nice and then you've got to over compliment somebody and then you're going to do love bombing, that's not actually a genuine, that's not a genuine, compassionate connection with a human being. It's fake, it's superficial, and it's veiling something else. Okay? All right? Remember that. I would not describe myself as nice. I'd say I'm a kind person and I'm friendly. Nice is something you do in order to appear nice. However, I'm a human being. I have lots of different emotions and different expressions. Somebody who has to continually demonstrate how nice they are definitely isn't. It's an act, right? So there was a lot of overacting behavior, which I had already felt uncomfortable with. I will go into that in a deep dive to give an expression and an understanding as to how you deal with such overwhelming, particularly love bombing behavior. There was a lot of love bombing in this situation. So what happened? I sat down and this person said to me, "Oh my God, your makeup. Oh my God, that lightening makeup. It's just extraordinary. It's amazing." And I looked at them and I thought, this is second time. And I already told you how I felt about it the first time. So I looked at them and I said, why would you say that again? I already told you I didn't like it. Now, this is when the shade and the dig and the backhanded compliment revealed itself. You'll always see when somebody's expression and their face, right? So this person went like this when I said it, and I removed my glasses to show you a bit deeper. They looked at me and went, and they pursed their lips and they rolled their eyes and they kind of smirked and wanted their head and rolled it that way, to the left, to the away from me. And I thought, you did that on purpose. You want me to feel uncomfortable. That's quite gross. I thought about that in my head. So I said, don't say that to me again, because I don't like it. And they ignored that and they moved on very, very quickly. When you face somebody and you call it out their behavior in the very beginning, when you see it and you highlight it, you'll notice how quickly they move past it. They want to go fast. I mean, we're going super Ferrari fast. We're on that runway, whoosh, like a Concorde airplane. They don't want to address the fact that you've actually come to them with something solid and said, no. Okay? Why don't they want to do this? Because they will be revealed. All right. People are always hiding and masking. Hide. All right. So they're hiding, particularly when you see somebody that is nice. Okay. They're going to hide behind being nice. So the guise of niceness is what they're going to portray and act and gaslight you. I don't know what you mean. And then you start to see where their mouth becomes almost so big and large. They're chewing their tongue and their teeth at exactly the same time. And you're thinking, why would you do that? You really want to upset me, but you want to embarrass me. You want to change a narrative about me. You want to control how I'm feeling. You want this discord to last. I was so perplexed and confused. I called my mum. Called my really good friend and said, do I look like I'm bleaching? My friend said, Des, shut up, get off my phone. Of course you don't. And my mum said, oh, what a rubbish you talk. And I thought, okay, yeah, all right, mum, thanks. That was clear and straight to the point. So this man demonstrated to me all three. There was a dig, there was shade, and there was a backhand compliment, right? And when you open up to the backhand compliment, you recognize what this person is doing. You go, I realized you actually don't like me. And that was strike two. So I considered it. I unpicked it. I reflected on it. I spoke about it with my own therapists and support, where we talk about what's going on for us, and we unpicked it. And I realized, okay, I know what's going on here. Third occasion, maybe a few weeks later, maybe on 1 week later, he did exactly the same thing in a social setting round table. And I looked at him, he was next to me, I said, this is the third time you've asked me that. I didn't like it the first time, the second time, and I don't like it. I don't like it. And he did exactly the same behavior. And his mouth twisted. And he rolled his eyes and he kind of jutted his head and he smirked. And he was smirking and really that kind of look. And I took all of his behavior in and I saw it for what it was, right? For exactly what it was. This niceness, this pretense he was playing about with me was like a false sense of security, right? And it disarms you. So if I go away and say, did you hear what he said? And someone goes, oh, but he's so nice and he's so this and isn't he so lovely, right? And this is like the soundbite and echo chamber. Often people do that because they don't want to be in your position and they don't want to be the person that has to call it out. And they just are glad that it's not happening to them. So they need to say all this stuff. They want to secure themselves. So never, ever, ever seek validation from anybody that is there. So I didn't, right? You don't seek any validation. You've got to look inward yourself. So what do you need to do? You've got to understand the emotional impact, right? So that understanding of what he did and recognition of his behavior was all I needed to be able to calculate and organize my own feelings and what I was going to do next, right? This was important for me to recognize that this man had done it 3 times. When somebody does it once and you tell them they don't do it again, you respect the fact that they've owned their behavior and they've moved on. When somebody does it once and then they do it a second time and then you remind them they did it a first time and you say, I don't like that, and you already got some reservations about them and they stop, you respect that and you move on and you keep a little memory bank to say, I know this person pushes boundaries. When they do it a third time, now the joke's on you. Okay. Once bitten, twice shy. Okay. This was 3 goes. You have to have a boundary that says no. So I decided from that moment, there will be no more kind or friendly interactions. It will be a simple smile, walk forward, because I'm not about to create hostility, but I'm not going to keep somebody as a friend who clearly isn't. That's a waste of brain space. It's a waste of emotional space. It's a waste of my life to invest in something extremely superficial and pretentious that has no direction for me other than down. I want to go up. I want to develop. So you have to ask yourself, when you're in the situation of digs, shade, and backhand compliments, what are you actually going to gain? What is it going to cost you to play the tennis game with them? Okay. What is it going to cost you to create a boundary? Who is more important here? Because mostly when we're in those situations, what I was used to doing was laughing it off. And if you're used to laughing it off, I want you to stop that right now. Because what you're doing is you're giving the other person leverage. You're giving them more road to do this again in probably a more sensitive nature for you, which won't support you. Okay. This is owning and understanding what you see and saying it as it is, calling it out for what it is. Okay. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself self-doubting yourself. You're going to find yourself insecure. You're going to try to avoid things. You're going to take the management and control towards yourself and try to do things. You're going to upset yourself. Okay. Now, this is a podcast on the shite people do, raising your awareness towards your own feelings and your awareness of the behaviors of others towards you. We could talk all day long about why they did it. Why they did it doesn't matter. What matters is that they did it. Okay? That's what matters, that they did it. That's all that matters. And to validate yourself and accept where you are. So you come into the paid for version of the workshop, I'll be digging deeper into what happens with your emotional regulatory system, how you deal with it, how you cope, how you strengthen and move yourself forward. But mostly it is to remember this: it's happening. And you don't need anybody else to tell you that it's happening. You can own that it's happening and recognize it's happening for yourself. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe, like my Instagram, my YouTube channel, follow the podcast on Apple and Spotify. There's loads to come. I got a lot happening and I really, really value your support. My name is Desiree Shaw. I'm a psychotherapist and this is The Shite People Do. Thank you for watching and listening. Bye for now.